No surprise that Tommy Edman and the Cardinals came to a 2-year agreement. It seemed unlikely that they were actually going to take this to the arbitration table. So that's good they got it out of the way. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Bernie, I think that Tommy Edman is their most valuable defensive player. Yes, Brendan Donovan can play a lot of positions, but Tommy Edman can play center field and shortstop, and that's kind of one thing that differentiates him. And, you need that guy happy. You need him focused. You need him to not be thinking about his contract. Sometimes those arbitration hearings can get messy. We saw the last 2 seasons how it messed with Ryan Helsley and how it messed with Tyler O'Neill. So, I think the Cardinals were wise to bridge this gap. It was only $450,000. We say only because it's MLB terms, but they were only $450,000 apart when the deadline hit earlier in January. So, it made sense that they would come together and get this thing worked out.
Yeah, I think it's good stuff, and I just hope Tommy's ready, full go by at least enough to play some spring training games, and then certainly for the regular season. Well, John, I have to ask you. The news broke Friday. Matt Carpenter coming home. I got mixed feelings on it. He's a wonderful guy. Great respect for him. Appreciate the class he has, and what a great teammate he's always been. So it'll be good to see him. But can he really help him from a baseball standpoint?
Yeah, Bernie, that's the big question. I mean, if you're bringing Matt Carpenter in to be your 26th man and to be a leader, I have no problem with this signing. But if you're bringing him in and he's going to take left-handed bats away from guys, surely he's not going to take left-handed bats from Nolan Gorman or Brendan Donovan or Lars Nootbaar. If he's taking bats away from those guys. If Alec Burleson doesn't make the team because Matt Carpenter's here, things have gone badly wrong. And, like you said, Matt's a great guy. I got to spend some time with him last year in San Diego. He had a lot of great things to say about Adam Wainwright. We all know the big moments, the big playoff moments he had as a Cardinal against Clayton Kershaw. But he needs to be, your 26th man, your veteran guy. If he's any more than that, that means he's either found the fountain of youth or something's gone badly wrong.
Yeah, and I looked at. It's not a lot to go on, but he played some first base for the Padres last year, and he was fine. They didn't really use him much elsewhere, so would you expect that there'll be DH in first base? Will they use him much at third or second? I mean, I guess all that's possible, but is it too early to kind of have a good idea on what to expect in terms of where they'll put him?
Yeah, I think that's kind of up in the air. John Mozeliak did say the other day on the conference call that Matt needed to bring all his gloves with him, that, maybe he needs to be ready to fill in occasionally at third base or first base or, I don't know about playing the outfield, but, who knows. The good news for the Cardinals is he's working with Matt Holliday again, and, he spent a lot of his all season with Matt Holliday before the 22 season. He had 15 home runs in 47 games before he broke his thumb. He had really seemed to find it. And, John Mozeliak said the other day that, looking by the numbers, sometimes you can go by hearsay and somebody says, oh, yeah, he looks good. But he said they actually have raw actual data that shows that the bat speed is back, that the exit velocities are back to where they were a couple of years ago. And, they're hoping that Matt Holliday can kind of turn him around the way he did a couple of years ago. And, but again, he can't be in a key role. I think Matt knows that. I think Matt knows where he is in his career. The Cardinals know that if Matt Holliday's playing 3 or 4 days a week, something's gone badly wrong. So, most likely he's going to be that DH or that pinch hitter late in the game.
John Denton with us. Again, this segment brought to you by the Post Sports Bar and Grill, home of the official cheesesteak of the Bernie Show. John, providing that everyone's healthy, because when there's injuries, then you move the parts around. But provided that everyone stays healthy, there's no extended absences. Who does Carpenter's the addition of Carpenter? Who does that affect? Who do you think that's going to affect the most? Is it Burleson? Is it somebody else? Who's going to kind of lose out maybe in terms of playing time?
Yeah, it most likely would be Adam Burleson. Mozeliak said he could see a scenario where they were both on the roster. But, both of them are kind of limited defensively. Carpenter may hit for a little more power. Burleson might hit for a little more average. they don't want Burleson, hitting 4 times a week. If he's only getting 4 at bats, he needs to be in the minor leagues. But again, Alec Burleson, you want him to win that job. You want him to be better than Matt Carpenter in spring training. Burleson's worked this all season to get in better shape. He's lost 12 pounds. He's working defensively every day because basically they told him, hey, at the end of the season, hey, you're not good enough. And he took that to heart and really kind of exposed himself a little bit at the winter warm-up when he talked to the media. He said it really hit him hard that he had to do some work on his game. He had to do some work on his body and his conditioning. I think he's going to show up to camp and have a really good camp. The kid can absolutely hit. If you look at his expected numbers and his real numbers last year, there was a sizable gap. I mean, he hit more screaming liners right at people than I've seen in a long time. I think he's going to have a good camp. Matt Carpenter is going to have to blow them away. I could see a scenario where you bring him to camp and maybe Burleson just outplays him and Matt doesn't even make the team. But they want him for his veteran leadership. But ideally, the Cardinals would love if Alec Burleson would beat out Matt Carpenter for that 26th spot on the roster.
Yeah, I'd say I thought definitely to what you said. Obviously, he needs to get better defensively, at least to become solid out there. But in the second half of last season, if you go by OP after the All-Star break, if you go by OPS plus, it's not that his numbers were great per se, but they were better. He hit 273 and I think he was about 3 or 4% above the league average offensively. In the first half of the season, he was well below that. So he was making some progress. I guess part of me wonders, would that be a mistake for them to kind of stunt the progress that he has been showing? And again, no one's saying he's Stan Musial, but again, I'd like to your point about the underlying factors, the StatCast stuff. This guy will hit and probably hit very well in the big leagues. And if he's not going to get, if he's going to get less of a chance to swing the bat, I don't know if that's good in the long term for the Cardinals.
Yeah, Bernie, he has got really, really good hand-eye coordination, good bat-to-ball skills. He said he has to learn that, hey, I can hit anything. It's just you got to find pitches you can drive. The Cardinals don't want to see him slapping the ball to third or slapping the ball to shortstop. They want to see him driving the ball gap to gap and being a guy who can be a factor. And he has exceptional ball-to-bat skills. Look at his expected numbers last season with the rockets he hit, the balls that he hit deep into the ballpark that were supposed to be doubles, and they went right to somebody or somebody ran them down. If he could get to those expected numbers, we all know that all that matters is what you did, not your expected numbers. But if he can get some of those balls to fall in, if he can be stronger, if he can be in better shape this year, maybe he could be a contributor off the bench and be a left-handed bat in the DH spot.
John, I'm sure you're tired of it, getting questioned, even though you love all your readers who reach out to you, but questions about what are they going to do for the bullpen. So I got to ask you that too. I don't know. I do know there's a lot of guys out there, even with some of the bigger names coming off the board. What do you have a read on the situation? Are we confident that they'll even add a reliever who's something more than just a guy? I mean, someone that's got a track record you can bank on?
Well, they're still looking for swing and miss. They want guys up down there who can miss bats, and maybe a veteran like Hector Neris. He's still out there. He throws hard. Had a really good season with Houston. Phil Matone's out there. The Brazier kid is out there. Those are names you've heard mentioned. Matt Moore is a left-hander who's proven himself in this league for a long time. There are still plenty of candidates out there, but as we've talked about, Bernie, bullpen guys are just so volatile. Just because they had a great year one year doesn't mean they're going to be great the next year. And it might be the hardest thing in baseball to do is to find a bullpen guy that can have longevity, a guy who can be good a couple years in a row. And they are still waiting. I think if they find the right piece, if they find a guy who can miss bats and throw hard, I do think they still will add one more piece. But that doesn't mean it'll be tomorrow, or it may be the day before spring training. It may be halfway through spring training.
Some of your colleagues at MLB.com, I think it was last week, they wrote a piece I found interesting. I like pieces like this where they're looking ahead. And they had the Cardinals on a list of 7 teams that seem poised to make a big jump by leaps and bounds in 2024. I do feel better about this team. I do feel that it's not as dire as maybe some are fearing. But I do think, that, as you do, they need to add more to their bullpen. But what did you think about that optimistic take from your colleagues at MLB.com?
Well, I think I agree with them that the Cardinals underachieved last season. They're going to be better. Just look at the veteran pitchers that they've added. We all know that Sonny Gray is an ace. I think the Andrew Kittredge move may go down as John Mozeliak's best move. I mean, that's a guy who's really going to be a difference maker out of the Cardinals bullpen. They're going to be better. Nolan Arenado is fired up to have a bounce back year. We all know Paul Goldschmidt, the way he works in the offseason. Jordan Walker's going to take a leap. Lars Nootbaar is going to take a leap. I think they're going to be better this season. But, like we've talked about, I think they're good enough to win the NL Central. But I don't know that they're a legitimate World Series contender right now. They're still a piece or two away from that. That may not come until the trade deadline. I know Cardinal fans hate hearing that, but they are good enough to make a 15-win improvement this year, which will win you the NL Central. It's just, they're not the Phillies, they're not the Braves, they're not the Dodgers, they're not that level in the National League just yet.
Yeah, and I think we can realistically expect bounce backs from Arenado and Goldschmidt, because Goldie he hit the ball rocket hard last year. He had some bad luck that way with his final numbers, but I think Arenado probably will be rejuvenated when it's ready to go. You know better than I do, but that losing plus the back pain really got to him and brought him down mentally, physically last season. But the good news is that he's going to do everything to turn that completely around. So what do you think about Arenado in 2024?
Bernie, I asked him specifically. I asked Lars Nootbaar about Nolan, because they're so tight and they're best friends. And Lars just played in his golf tournament out in Southern California this past weekend. They work out together all the time. Lars's comment was, a motivated Nolan is a scary Nolan. And then, for all of us, I'm around him every day. I've seen few athletes who burn as hot as Nolan Arenado does. Like, it drives him crazy to not hit the ball. It drives him crazy to be on a loser. I think he's going to come back to spring training as, like a man possessed. I think the World Baseball Classic wore him down early in last season. He got off to a slow start, which we've seen for a couple of years. But, his body kind of betrayed him last year, and I think he's done a lot of things to put himself in a better position and have a big-time bounce-back year. We all know in St. Louis he is a superstar player in every respect of the word, and I expect him to have a big bounce-back this year.
John Denton with us. One more question for the outstanding baseball writer for MLB.com. Again, follow him on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. At John Denton 555. All right, one more question for you. Man, there's been so much emphasis on the clubhouse culture and improving that, enhancing that, more accountability, more leadership. Do you think it seems like they've been aggressive about it, so it seems like they've addressed it in a way that should matter? How do you assess the before and the after based on everything Ali has said, Mo has said, what some of the players have said about the clubhouse culture? What do you think?
Bernie, they have stressed having more leaders in the clubhouse, and they're going to have that with Sonny Gray, a guy who will stand up to anybody. They're going to have that with Lance Lynn, a guy who will say anything to anybody. And we all know Matt Carpenter's a great teammate, and I just push back a little bit on that being a contributing factor to last season. I mean, come on, Jordan Walker wasn't the reason they went 71 and 91 last year. Lars Nootbaar wasn't the reason they struggled. I mean, sometimes it's, leadership is hard. Chemistry is hard. Like, you don't know how you got it, but when you have it. It's that sort of thing. And, I mean, teams don't win because they have good chemistry. A lot of times they win and then have good chemistry. So, I'm kind of pushing back a little bit on that, that leadership was the reason. They were 71 and 91 last year because they didn't pitch. And they were 71 and 91 because the bullpen got worn out and got overexposed and the lineup was up and down. That's, leadership wasn't why they were 20 games below 500 last year. It was because they didn't play well.
Yeah.
They play well, he'll be better. So,
Yeah,
yes, they've
I'm
had
with
a lot
you.
of good leaders this season, but, at the end of the day, you got to perform on the field.
The defense deteriorated, which is the worst thing that can happen to the kind of pitching staff they had last year, and also their base running backed up. Fundamentally, I do think they're going to be stronger in 2024. I do think it's been overstated. I think some of the things they've emphasized can only help, but I'm with you in that I think they've maybe gone overboard on that. So we'll see. Well, hey, man, once you start to play 162, the answers will present themselves. So, John Denton, you're great, man. As always, really good to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Bernie. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk next week. That's our friend John Denton. That segment brought to you by the Post Sports Bar and Grill, home of the official cheesesteak of the Bernie Show.